Chapter 41. In his fevered dreams, the young mouse wandered through dark caverns. Somewhere a voice was calling out to him, "Matthias, Matthias." It sounded vaguely familiar, but he had other things to do than identify the voice. He must find the sword. In the Stygian gloom he saw the late rose. It was bathed in a pale blue light. What it was doing here in this dark netherwood? Matthias saw that all the tiny thorns on the rose stems resembled small swords. He felt he should speak to the rose. "Please tell me, late rose, where should I find the sword?" The topmost rose quivered. He watched it blossom before his eyes. At the center of the blooming petals was the face of Methuselah. "Matthias, my friend, I can help you no more. Seek the aid of Martin. I must go now." The face of the old gatehouse keeper faded. Slowly, his feet hardly touching the ground, Matthias traveled a long corridor. At its end were two figures. He halted by the first figure, unable to distinguish who it was, but a feeling of awe and a kindly kinship emerged from it. Matthias looked to the second figure. Here was something he had never before encountered. It had neither arms nor legs. With a hissing sound, the spectacle thing opened wide its mouth. Inside there were two sharp fangs, a flickering tongue which quivered and turned like a sword. With a cry of joy, the young mouse started running forwards, only to be restrained by the phantom figure of the first apparition. Matthias was not surprised to see Martin the warrior. "Martin, why do you stop me from getting the sword?" he asked. Martin's voice was warm and friendly. "Matthias, I am that is. Stay, beware of Asmodeus." Martin took hold of Matthias' shoulder. The young mouse tried to wrench free. "Let me go, Martin. I fear no creature that lives." Martin tightened his hold resentfully upon Matthias' shoulder. Pain shot through him like red-hot lace. Martin cried out, "Hold him still! Hold him still!" The agony increased. Matthias' eyes snapped open. "Hold him still now! Hold him still!" It was the Father Abbot. He was saying the same words as Martin had said. Brother Alf held tight to Matthias' shoulder as the abbot dug deep with a probe. He extracted a dark, pointed object, which he tossed into a bowl that Cornflower was holding. "Ouch, that hurt, Father," Matthias said weakly. The abbot wiped his paws upon the clean cloth. "Well, my son, you are back with us at last," he said. That must have hurt. There was half a sparrow's beak lodged in your shoulder." Matthias blinked and looked about. "Hello, Cornflower. You see, I got back in one piece." "Oh, hello, Brother Alf. I say, is that Basil in the next bed?" "Hush now, Matthias, and lie still," Cornflower chided. "You're lucky to be alive. It was a touch and go throughout the night." The abbot pointed to the first rays of sun streaming through the window. "Yes, but you are back now, see? You brought with you a magnificent June summer morning." The young mouse laid back upon the crisp, white pillows. Aside from the brushing headache and the pain in his shoulder, it felt good to be alive. "But what's Basil doing in the next bed?" he persisted. "Oh, him," Cornflower chuckled. "He says that he has a honorable war wound that requires a lot of food and rest, the old rogue." "That may be, but it would be churlish to begrudge Basil's request. After all, he did recapture our tapestry from Cluny. It was a very daring deed." Matthias was delighted. "Martin's tapestry back here at the Abbey? How marvelous! I bet old Methuselah was over the moon to have it back once more." There was a moment's silence. The abbot turned to Brother Alf and Cornflower. "Please, would you leave us alone for now? I have something to tell Matthias. You may visit him tomorrow. He needs lots of rest." The two mice nodded understandingly and left. Half an hour later, after unfolding the sad tale of Methuselah, the abbot took his leave. Matthias turned his face to the wall, bereft of any tears or lamentation from the stresses of an experience he had recently come through. The death of his old and valued friend left a feeling like a large leaden lump inside his chest. He curled up and tried to hide within himself. How long he lay there, racked by grief and misery, he had no way of knowing. But one morning, Basil Staghair awakened and called across. "What ho! Well, bless me medals, if it ain't young Matthias. How are you, laddie buck?" Matthias replied in a small, sad voice, "Please, Basil, leave me alone. I've lost Methuselah. I don't want to speak to anyone." Basil hopped nimbly across and perched on Matthias's bed. There, young fella, me lad. Why don't you think I know how you feel? Good grief, an old campaigner like me. When I think of the chums I lost in bygone battles, good and true friends they were. But I taught myself to keep a stiff upper whisker, you know. Matthias remained on his back, turned toward the hare. But you don't understand, Basil. The soldierly hare snorted. He grabbed Matthias and turned him over so that they were face to face. Don't understand? I'll tell you what I don't understand, young chip. I don't understand how a chappie like yourself, who is supposed to be a great warrior, can lie down there mopping any longer. You're like an old lady otter who's just lost a fish. If old Methuselah were here right now, he'd chuck a jug of water over you and turf you right out of the bed on your fat little head. Matthias sat up and sniffed. Do you think so, Basil? The hare slapped his injured leg, winced, and then laughed aloud. Think so? I know so. Do you imagine that old mouse sacrificed his life so you could lie around feeling sorry for yourself? Huh. He'd have told you himself. That's not the way of the warrior. Get up, sir, stir yourself. Make Methuselah proud of you. Matthias's eyes gleamed with new determination. By golly, you're right, Basil. That's exactly what my old friend would have wanted. I'm sorry. You must think I've behaving like a dreadful young fool. The hare's ears flopped comically as he shook his head. Not at all, my dear feller. Think nothing of it. I must confess that I was a bit like you when I was a leveret, you know. Now, what do you say about getting the business of living properly again? I say, I'm positively famished. What about you? Matthias could not help laughing at the irrepressible hare. Well, a bit hungry. You know how, now you come to mention it. Capital, cried Basil. I could eat a stag, antlers and all. I say, they do have a wonderful nosebag for all of us wounded heroes. You know, just watch this, my lad. The hare tinkled a brass bell at the bedside table. Within seconds, Friar Hugo and Cornflower appeared. Ah, yes, the catering staff, said Basil. Hurrah! The other injured warrior here and myself would be greatly obliged for some sustenance. Nothing too grand, you know, just something for the poor old wounded teeth to nibble on. Got to keep body and fur together, what? Cornflower was pleased to see Matthias looking so much better. He exchanged winks with him and Matthias and Friar Hugo. The fat hare bowed with a servile manner as he answered the hare. Very good, Mr. Stagg. 2 bowls of gruel coming up. Matthias and Cornflower struggled not to laugh aloud. Basil exploded. Gruel? What the devil do you mean by gruel? What sort of slop is that to give a renowned warrior, eh? We want to be cured, not killed. Now listen to me, you pair of scully foolishers. I want a decent brunch. Half a dozen boiled eggs, some crisp summer salad, 2 loaves of hot bread, 2 oven-baked apple pies, oh, and a chunk in some of those medium-sized Cortez tarts if you see any lying about. Well, don't stand there with your great jaws flapping. Cut along now, quick as you like. Cornflower curtsied with mock solemnity. Friar Hugo held up a paw. Oh, you forgot the October nut brown ale, sir. Basil thumped the bed. Good Lord, so it did. Just 4 flagons, thank you, my good mouse. Cornflower and Friar Hugo exited, leaning upon each other, their faces crimson with suppressed laughter. Strange creatures, Basil mused. Blowed if I could see anything funny about the couple of heroes wanting to be fed so that they can stay alive. Takes all kind to make a world, young feller, other ranks included. Late as they made a hearty meal, Matthias set about pumping the hare for information. Basil, what's a viper? A viper? Well, it's an old poison-taste snake, you know. An adder. Never had a lot of trunk with the slimy fellows myself. You'd be best to stay away from them, old chum. Matthias continued probing the hare's knowledge. Are they all any adders around the Muswell region, Basil? I mean, if there are, then you'd be the very creature to know about them, being an expert and all. Basil puffed out his narrow chest as he absent-mindedly ate one of Matthias's quince tarts. Adders and mossflower? Now let me see. No, I don't suppose they are nowadays. There was a talk a long time back, but I shouldn't think he's around anymore. Filthy reptiles, adders, nothing like stags, you know. Now what the devil was the adder chap's name? No, I cannot remember for the life of me. Could he be Asmodeus? Matthias inquired innocently. Basil Staghare dropped a half-eaten apple pie on the bedside table. He was suddenly very serious. Asmodeus, where did you hear that name? A little bird told me, Matthias replied. Basil retrieved his apple pie. He munched thoughtfully. You're sparrows, eh? Savage little creatures. No discipline, of course. Darn good fighters, though. But tell me, what do the jolly old sparrows know about Asmodeus? It's all it has to do with Martin's sword, Matthias explained. You see, one of their kings stole a sword from the north point of the Vane Abbey Reef. That was many years ago. From there, the sword has been passed down through Sparrow Kings until it came into the claws of the late King Bull Sparrow. Not the silly little who managed to get himself drowned yesterday, said Basil through a mouthful of hazelnut jerky. Same one, Matthias replied, but to cut a long story short, the adder stole the sword from him. That's why I want to know about Asmodeus, you see. Play with fire, you'll get yourself burned, warned the hare. Matthias knew Basil could be manipulated. He insisted. Oh, please, Basil, you could tell me all you know. It was Matthias's life and work, trying to find that sword. I must continue it for his sake. The hare gnawed thoughtfully on some bread and salad. Well, if you put it that way, young feller, anything I can do to help. You'll need a good guide. Matthias interrupted. I must find the sword by myself, Basil. Just tell me all you know about the adder called Asmodeus. The hare lay back on his bed. He took a long draught of October ale before answering. Quite frankly, old chap, I know nothing about the bally snake. I thought the blighter had died many years ago. Matthias groaned aloud, but Basil cut him short. Mind you, have said that. I think I have a pretty fair idea who will know. Listen, if you strike out northeast across Mossflower Wood, you'll find a deserted farmhouse beyond the far edge. Now that chap you want to see is a whooping great snowy owl that patrols between the fringes of the wood and the old sandstone quarry. His name is Captain Snow. Bear in mind, though, he'll eat you on the sight if he gets a chance. Military bird, but a real bounder. Then how should I talk with him, said Matthias abruptly. Temper me, lad, Basil chuckled. Reaching down to his bedside locker, he dug out his dress tunic. It was covered in medals and decorations from 100 campaigns. The hare selected a medal. Detaching it from the jacket, he tossed it across to Matthias. Here, catch. That's a medal, don't you know? Captain Snow gave it to me for saving his life. You saved the owl's life, said Matthias. I should say I did, Matthias laughed in memory. Feathery old fool went to sleep in a rotted dead tree. It got blown down in a gale and trapped the blighter underneath. He'd have died if I hadn't come along, dug under the thing and pulled him out. Topped out like a shuttlecock under a door. Fellow officer, you understand, couldn't leave him there to get flattened. His face is flat enough, though, as it is. So all I do is show him this medal? Asked the young hare. Basil laughed at his friend's naivety. Yes, that's all, but if you don't want to be scoffed, make sure he sees the medal before he sees you. Tell the old buffer that Basil Stag Hare by his proper rank, Captain. And I'd like the medal back sometimes. Spoils the look of me #1 dress tunic, missing decoration. Matthias studied the medal. It was a silver cross embellished with a spread-winged owl. The ribbon was of faded white silk. Though it was old, it shone brightly in the summer light. Thank you, Basil. I'll see you get it back. Is there anything else I should know? Not much. Just remember what I've said, old chap. This Captain Snow is a night hunter, by the way. He'll probably sleep in some old tree all day with one eye open. You mark my words, laddie. Old Snow doesn't miss a thing. He knows all creatures in his territory, where they live, what trails they use, and so on. Ha, they don't call owls wise for nothing. Bit of a duffer all the same, letting a tree fall on him. Keep your eye on him, though. If he catches you napping, he'll clomp on you, medal and all. Basil finished his ale and yawned. Now get some sleep, Matthias. I'm flagged out after the snack. Me old honorable war wound is begging to play me up. I must have a bit of a snooze. With that, Basil closed his eyes. He was soon snoring gently. Matthias realized that there was no more to be said, so he decided to have a rest too. Basil Stag Hare, what an amazing old campaigner, the young mouse thought as he drifted off to sleep. Shortly after 12 o'clock, Matthias awakened. The noontime sunlight flooded the room. Basil sat on his back, snoring stentoriously. Although his shoulders still throbbed, Matthias felt fit and refreshed, well enough to travel. He knew, however, that he must act with stealth and secrecy. If the abbot or Cornflower or any of his friends knew of his scheme, he would have no chance. They would make certain he would be confined to bed until further notice. Quietly he arose and dressed himself, hanging his sandals around his neck by their thongs. Taking a clean pillow slip, he stocked it with the remainder of the food from the table. Someone had thoughtfully placed his dagger at the bedside locker. It must have been found in the great hall. Searching around, Matthias came upon a good stout pole, probably used as a window or a curtain opener. He decided it would come in handy. Carefully he inched the door open, closing it again swiftly as the abbot and Brother Alf padded by. Matthias listened to Alf's voice. "I looked in there 10 minutes ago, Father. They're both sleeping like hibernating squirrels. It's not likely they'll wake until evening." The footsteps receded down the passage. Matthias crept from the room and stole off in the opposite direction. He was surprised at the ease which he left the abbey, slipping off into the moss floor through the side door of the wall, where an unknown to him Methuselah's murder had also passed on the previous day. Alone in the woods, Matthias felt a bit wobbly on his legs. He sat down against a beech tree until the feeling passed. Tying the pillowcase bundle to his bow, he hefted it across his good shoulder and struck off boldly into moss floor towards the northeast.